Finally, another car came driving slowly down the road. It stopped by the bridge a few hundred feet away and turned its headlights on and off 3 times. "It's time, my precious child," Marcel whispered as she pushed Severine out of the ditch, and they ran toward the car. "These people will help you and your maman and papa." At the car, Monique took something from the pouch she had been carrying. It was Panouf. "Take her, Severine," Monique whispered. Tears welled up in Severine's eyes. She folded Panouf into her sweater, then reached into her pocket and pulled out a fine gold chain on which hung a gold Star of David. "Remember me, Monique." "We are practically home, my little girl," Marcel said as she and Monique arrived at the train station in Melun. This was where they would board the train to go back to Choisy-le-Roi. But there was an unusual amount of travelers for that early time of day. The station was crowded. Nazi soldiers were everywhere, stopping people, searching them, barking orders. Marcel took her daughter's hand. In the other, Monique clutched the chain. As Monique and Marcel drew closer and closer to the gate, where their papers would be checked, Marcel pulled a bundle of tickets and documents from her handbag. The entire station of people had to squeeze through the tiny gate to board the train. Suddenly, the crowd behind Monique and her mother surged and pushed so hard Monique lost Marcel's hand. Monique couldn't see her mother anymore. People pushed and shoved, and Monique lost her footing and fell. When she did, Severine's necklace slid out of her hand and onto the platform floor. Quickly, she put it to her pocket, pulled herself to her feet, slipped into the line that was pushing through the checkpoint, and was swept with them into a shabby coach car. The tall boots were shouting at everyone. What if they searched her and found the necklace? And where was her maman? She could see through the window of her train car people standing on the platform, waiting to catch a train going to the opposite direction. Had her mother been pushed into that line instead of onto this train? She tried to see through her own tears to find her mother's face. When she saw a girl alone, she looked thin and sad, very sad, like Severine. On the girl's coat was a yellow Star of David. Was it Severine? No, she could see now it wasn't Severine, but it could have been. Monique held Severine's necklace tight in her pocket. "Oh, maman, maman, where are you?" she cried as the train lurched away. The train rolled to a noisy stop. St. Georges, the sign read. Only 2 kilometers from Choisy-le-Roi. From home, Monique walked through alleys and back streets that only hours before she, Severine, and Maman had passed. "Oh, Maman," she cried as she walked. When Monique finally saw the familiar threshold of her front door, she pushed it open and climbed the stairs. She could still smell her mother's scent in the air. She was tired, so tired she threw herself across the bed and fell into a deep sleep. Then she dreamed of her mother's voice. "Ma chérie, ma petite," the voice said. She dreamt a cool hand crossed her brow. It seemed so real. When she opened her eyes, she saw that the hand was real. The voice was real. It was her maman. "Oh, my sweet, brave little girl," her mother cried as they rocked in each other's arms. "I just knew that I could find you here." 1 week passed. 2. Monique tried to imagine that Severine and her maman and papa, and of course Panouf, were safe. Then the tall boots would march by her front gate, reminding her how hopeless it seemed. If only she had a message from Severine, a sign, something. And then one day Monique and Marcel were planting next year's bulbs in the garden when Marcel suddenly gasped. "God, Monique, look!" Her mother pointed at the bleak sky above them. A butterfly fluttered down to the garden, and another, and another. They both watched as butterflies started to land on the dry stalks of faded flowers. First there were 3, then 10, then 20 and 30. Neighbors came out of their cottages and peered over the wall in wonder. "It's a sign, Maman, a miracle. Severine sent them, I know it. She and her parents are safe." Monique held up her hand and a butterfly fluttered and landed on her finger. She took it to her cheek. Its wings fluttered. "A kiss," Monique said softly. This is a note from the author, Patricia Polacco. Marcel Saluge was part of the French underground and resistance organized by General Charles de Gaulle. Marcel and many other selfless citizens of France made their own homes a safe haven for Jews escaping to freedom during the terrible Nazi occupation. They did this at great peril to their own lives as well as the lives of their families. According to my Aunt Monique, her mother, Marcel, had been part of the underground and resistance even before the Nazis occupied France. Monique was totally unaware until she met Severine, but even then was not aware of the extent of her mother's involvement until the end of the war. Within 2 years of the liberation of France, Monique and Marcel received a letter. In it was a card with a drawing of a pavilion inscribed on the cover. Inside it said, "Je vive, I live, Severine." Next to her signature was a paw print. It was learned later that neither parent survived their attempt to escape. Severine was delivered to Switzerland and eventually made it to England, where she remained with close friends of the family for the duration of the war. Sometime later, she relocated in the new state of Israel with relatives. Monique and Severine are friends to this day. 30 years after the end of the war, Marcel contacted local Jewish agencies and asked them to unearth possessions that were buried in her basement by families that never returned to claim them.